Hey guys, it's Trav in the warehouse. We've got a VF Commodore here behind us. This one right now is dead stock, but it's got heated seats, it's got navigation, it's got all the bells and whistles. And today we're going to transform this into a Kenwood DAX direct replacement and iDatalink Maestro Superstar. Alright, first step's going to be to program the modules. We're going to need to program the Maestro module, we're going to program the APX direct replacement kit and the Kenwood serial number. Let's go and do that. Alright, here we are. We're on our iDatalink Maestro flashing website. We've got all our products just over here. We've got everything in easy to view reach so that we can see all the serial numbers. It's going to be important to make sure that you've got a VF APX kit and a VF RR2 module, not a traditional RR2 module. The VFs are slightly different. We're going to go in here and select Australia. We're going to go into Flash My Module. Alright, we've entered our login details and our password. We now hit login. We've got our module plugged in there. Alright, here we are, it's detected our device, we've got it plugged in. It's convenient, these openings here in the box. Now we're going to go and go flash by vehicle. We're going to select the year. It's a 2016. We're selecting Holden. Now we're selecting Commodore VF with factory navigation. And we've got it memorised, that matches our steering wheel, so we're okay. Now here's where it can get confusing. We're not using the traditional Maestro harnesses, we're using the APX kit. So make sure you select the APX or the APX S8 VF1. If you don't select this, you won't be able to get the buttons in front of the screen to work. Now it's asking us for the APX serial number. The APX serial number can be found on the white box or on the APX kit black box. This particular one starts with the B, so off we go. We're going to verify that. It's been verified. We're going to continue. We're selecting a Kenwood. We're using the DAX 8000. Now we need to enter the serial number. The Kenwood packaging is quite easy to understand. It has S/NO, that means serial number. So we're entering the digits that follow that. We're selecting our firmware. Now accessories, we've got our accessories here. So we're going to be using a NAV4, a Ken1 and a Vid1. So selecting NAV4, Video 1, continue. We're going to leave our system configured into the default mode because we want everything to work. Now here's where we get to select the buttons. Right now we're on the steering wheel and I'm quite happy with what's default. We're going to have volume up, volume down, mute, track up, track down, source, Siri button and an answer and hang up. That's fine with me. Now we get to the stage where accessory button. These are the buttons in front of the screen there. So here's where we get to decide what they do. It's infinitely adjustable, so pick it how you would like. This is just my recommendation. The repeat button, we might make that the next widget. Radio tune button, we can scroll through. We might make that a screen off button. I'm going to scroll down. We're going to make a navigation button. Makes sense for me to display CarPlay. So display CarPlay, Android Auto. The back button, you've got all these selections here. Feel free to choose anything you would like. We might make that a screen off. We're going to make the seek down button. That's a pretty easy one. So seek down will become seek down. So the seek up button, it makes sense to make that the seek up function. Phone button or mute button, we're going to make that mute. Power button, which turns it on and off. Going to make that the screen off button. The home button, we're going to display the home screen. Go back up here and our destination button, I think I might make that display our gauges. Just making sure everything has got a function. Favorite hasn't, so we might make that a display button. We might make that display the climate screen. Just scrolling through to make sure everything has an allocation. Continue. We're about to flash the Maestro, so we just need to review, make sure we've got our RR module, the steering wheel matches our vehicle, the car matches our vehicle, the head unit matches our vehicle and the serial numbers check out. The APX kit matches our APX kit and the serial numbers match, our accessories match. Right now we've got an allocation of everything that we've decided there in the buttons, and I'm going to flash the module. So the flash is in progress. So we're transferring that information we've just allocated onto the module itself. So here's where we can go ahead and we can print or download our install guide. So we've got the install guide there, so we can download it, we can print, or we can send it. So right now we're just going to send it. So you see the flash was completed, we've sent that off, we're ready to go. So we know it's a success because we're in here and I've got it loaded up, but I also have had it sent to my email, and here I am now. I've got the instructions for the particular vehicle to make all the connections, where things go, etc, etc. Right here handy on my phone. It's easy to take down to the warehouse, or you can download it, save it to your desktop, or even print it off. Alright, let's go and work on this car. Not every tool you're going to need, but probably most of them covered. What I've got here is a selection of tapes, soldering iron, an impact gun, a blowtorch, an electric screwdriver, a couple of chrome hand tools, shifter, solder, crimpers, side cutters. My favourite trim tool removers, one's a plastic non-marring and the other's a super funky metal lever-like device jammed into a soft gripping screwdriver handle. But the all-important towel or cloth or blanket, something to put over the dash so we don't scratch the really nice gloss black trims in this car, and some glass cleaner. In this case I'm using isopropyl alcohol. So let's go and jump into it. One of the things we need to point out is we need to keep this, we need to pull the circuit board out, because as you might be able to see there, this car's got heated seats and the buttons, and that directly relates to these three connectors here. It's a good practice to take memory or photos, if you can't remember, of where things went and what connectors went into what. For those playing at home, all these little fasteners, they're a 7mm head. So I've taken a 7mm socket and put it on my little cordless right angle screwdriver. Here's where we take the main part of the radio out. Again, just make note of all the connectors. And just like that, our VF's pulled apart. So here we are, we're going to pull the factory LCD out. We're going to disconnect the plugs. These plugs are what we're going to need to plug back in when we take the circuit board out of this screen. I can't tell you how much I love this screwdriver. Big shout out to Snap-on for making such a great tool. Big shout out to Maestro and Advanced Ice and Kenwood for making such a great head unit installation setup as well. So for those really keen viewers, and I know there's some of them out there, you'll notice this isn't the actual fascia we removed from the car. The owner of this car has actually provided me with an older screen that has had some damage so that he can put his aside and keep it in Mickey Mouse condition for if he ever takes the car back to original. Alright, so here we go. This is something I definitely prefer using hand tools rather than drill over, because you can control your speed. It's very easy to go too fast or the tool jump out and then cause damage to what we're working on, and I couldn't imagine there'd be anything worse than especially breaking a screen, especially the Kenwood, after all this time and effort. Do it. How's this guy? So right now we've got all the main and assembly apart, and this green circuit board, this is what we're chasing. There's 4 number 2 Phillips head screws in each corner. Pop them out. I'm trying to carefully put everything aside so that when we go to reuse it and put it back together, we know where each part is. All right, there we have it. This is the board we're after. This now goes in our really cool black Maestro housing. Holes in there so the plugs can go back in. So we're going to assemble that into the existing housing in one moment. So just watch me do the same thing that I've just done, but with the owner's actual fascia this time. Alright, so we're going to take this OEM screen that we've just removed for the gentleman to keep. We're going to put that with his original brain box over there. And now we're going to reassemble all this with the Kenwood screen, the Holden screen, and the Apex kit bracketry. Paying careful attention to which way this goes up. How funny would it be if you turn the car on and everything's upside down? Probably not very. Alright, so it's pretty easy. All the wording faces the right way up, so pretty self-explanatory. Just with these top ones, I'm only going to loosely do them up. And then we'll secure the screen into the apex brackets with these little screws that come with the apex kit. They're nice and shallow so that way we don't go too deep and pierce the screen. They've got a nice little bit of Loctite on there to stop them coming undone. All right, they're all in position so we can go around and nick them up. Not too tight, but tight enough that they're not going to fall out. Now we can secure the brackets back into the Holden fascia. Then we're going to come back to our circuit board we removed earlier. This really can only go in one way. Heated switch buttons on either side, matching up with this white connector down here. It's going to line up with these tabs on here. Now in your apex kit are these tiny little black Phillips head screws. That's what's going to be used to secure this down. We're going to put our protective housing on the back here. Again, I just go through and loosely do these up. All right, so now with the Kenwood screens mounted in there, we're going to plug the brain box into it. So there's a blue and a black connector there. They're pretty self-explanatory. They'll only go in one way. Once they're connected up, we're going to come back and reinstall our OEM circuit board. Now just be wary, these screws are almost the exact length. You don't have much room for mucking around. Just nick them up. Don't over tighten them because we don't want to crack any of the plastics. Now's where we're going to reinstall or reconnect our heated seat buttons. They're going to go in either side here. We're going to reconnect the buttons on the front of the face there in. Now you might have remembered when we removed it, there was these three connectors in there from Holden. Now they'll go back in and that will allow all these buttons on the front here, the heated seats, to work. And they're the ones we programmed earlier upstairs. Now the brackets that come in the Apex kit, they're specific to the VF and this Apex unit. We're going to mount them on the side there. Note that the unit's further back than the front of the panels. So mount that in its further backmost state. That'll allow the factory hazard button to clear everything when we go to put it all back in the car. Seriously, how easy is that? Just like that. We've mounted up our hard components. We're going to have a break for some lunch, then we'll come back and tackle the wiring. All right, we're back from lunch. Earlier on we set up our unit and brackets, etc. That's all still sitting here ready to go. In the meantime, I've double-sided taped the little speaker there. That speaker there is going to give you your OEM chimes. That's now ready to rock. I have put the harness together. What you'll see here is two kind of lots of harnesses. One, this pile here. These are all things you are going to have left over after this installation. Because these are universal modules and because this head unit can fit other vehicles, both the installation kit and the Kenwood kit come with auxiliary parts. So we're not going to need the external remote for the Kenwood. We're not going to need the GPS antenna because we're using the GPS antenna retention harness. That one there you saw when we were flashing the module earlier. These are some extra harnesses for the Maestro we're not going to need. This little guy here, we're not going to need in this instance, but I will point it out. This is for when you've got a Bose system in your VF or an amplified system from factory. This goes in line with this connector here, and what that does is reduce the level so that the factory amplifier still sounds really good and gives you a decent level of volume. If you don't have that connected and you've got the factory amplified system, you'll find the input gain is going to be too high, and at a low volume it's just going to distort and sound horrible. So Calais, HSVs, SSVs, etc. with Bose, this will get plugged into there. Cars without Bose, this goes in the spare parts file. We're also not going to need the USB to USB-A adapter in this particular car. We've already ran, to save some time, the USB retention harness, so I've had the glove box out. You unplug the OEM USB cable and I've ran that up to behind now where the Kenwood's going to go. I've also in the meantime passed through the OBD connector for the CAN, so that's plugged in under the dash. I've loomed that up and ran that. I've also ran the external microphone. I figure as installers or car guys, you've probably got more than enough skill to do that without watching me. Then what I've done is come back to the bench and I've plugged up all our harnesses. So what we've got here is our connector for the power, ground, speaker wire, etc. That's going to plug into the GM or the Holden connector. I've plugged in our Kenwood patch loom there. This is our universal. This is the Kenwood to suit the new Kenwood brain. That plugs on nice and easy. I've put some cloth tape on that there. What I have also used in this application is the VID1 video filter. Because we're going from the OEM camera into a high def screen, sometimes the OEM reverse cameras can look a little bit grainy. So in that instance, we fitted the VID1. That plugs simply in line with the power connector of the Maestro module and the reverse camera harness for the VF. So that's all ready to go. So effectively, we're ready to walk over the car now and start plugging some of this stuff in. Now remember earlier we plugged the brain box of the Kenwood into this screen and assembled all of that. We're going to need to carry that around as two parts, or as two parts acting as one. So we will need to plug in the screen first and then pop down and do the brain box and all the other connections afterwards. So it's important to remember these OEM connectors. Now you're not going to be connecting the blue connector. We're not using that, but the grey connector plugs in, the black connector plugs in. Once those grey and black connectors are connected in, we want to make sure our cables come down nice and accessible for the Kenwood or for the brain box. Now we can clip this in for the last time. Now we want to move on to connecting our harnesses and our Maestro module. Now earlier, as mentioned, I double-sided taped the speaker on there. I've got this little bit of double-sided tape that comes in the kit. We're going to mount the module to that. This car is running an aftermarket amplifier, so the RCAs, they've all been loomed up and connected, so I'm going to plug those into the Kenwood as well now. Just going to go through and make a couple of the simple connections. So we're going to connect our antenna, we're going to connect our GPS antenna. Again, we've used retentions for those. We're going to go in and connect our USB. Now we're going to go and grab the Maestro module itself. At this point, before I mount it, I like to test everything. So I'm going to make the connector to the power connection to the radio the last thing that I do. So we're going to plug in our main loon T harness. Oh, nice and easy. All the connections have already been made on our Maestro module. I now need to connect in the OBD port or the CAN data or the GM LAN. That's plugged in there. I can come across and now plug our module into the Kenwood. Then I can plug our external speaker into the Maestro module. We need to connect our video retention or our reverse camera to the factory grey connector. Nice and easy. Then we come back and connect our main power harness. Also in this situation we'll need to connect the remote trigger wire, but I'll come back to that. So now, with all the connections made, the reverse camera's taped in nice and secure. Make our last reverse camera connection. I will, once I know it works, come back and tape that up. Now we can turn it on and check that everything works. Look at that. Kenwood on the startup. Our speaker's working, we can hear the chimes. Wait for the initial boot up. We can set our language. Most of these are already ready to go. All right, we've got sound from our radio. Our buttons are working. Our reprogrammed keys are now working. CarPlay is not connected, so that's not going to work just yet. But I know now that everything's working, so I can go ahead and put it all back together. I just like to make sure when I've got an RCA connection, particularly on cameras or audio RCAs, that I tape them together. I mean, most of the time they're nice and tight. If they're not though, they can't come undone whilst you're driving. All right, bit of mucking around in there, but we've got it all in. We're gonna plug our heater controls back in and the singled in brain all to go in together. And just like that, it looks like it's original again. Now we can reinstall our trims. All right, everything's back together. Now we'll just do a quick tidy up with some tools and then we'll sit down and go through all the settings within the unit. All right, I've just connected my phone up via Bluetooth and it's now gonna ask us to connect to the CarPlay and we've said yes. And there's our CarPlay menu. It's the new 5-icon wide format with our multi-menus, and we can also display some of the vehicle settings across here. We can change this menu. So this car doesn't have tyre pressure monitors, so we can't display that right now, but I can go in and select pitch and roll, and we've got the pitch and roll on display there. We've got our nav, I've got my music, my reminder, and then back to our home screen. We can also turn that band off. Go back to Kenwood now, takes us back to the heart of the unit. We're just currently listening to analog radio, nothing fancy because it's just to test everything. Now we're having a look at our buttons, and we programmed the destination button to be our gauges. Now we've got gauges up on the display. We've programmed our nav to take us to CarPlay. It's doing that perfectly. Home is taking us home. Our volume dial works beautifully. So does our tune and menu. All our fan is coming up across on top of the overlaying the screen. When we're using any of the other HVAC controllers, they're being brought up on the screen. It's just working so well. Now we can go into the Kenwood and we can go into the vehicle info. This is part of the Maestro, what it adds to the car. So as I said, we don't have factory tyre pressure monitors programmed, so we can't display those, but the car's running. It's at 14.4 and it's in park. If I change that, that's going to change up on the display. Something else we might point out, put it in the reverse, and just like the OEM, the grid lines are moving. So no functions lost. Our heated seat buttons, they work as well. Then we go into our settings, audio or vehicle, our display, the user interface, the camera, the system settings. This is where we can turn our demo mode off, and we can go in and we can go into our Maestro setup. We can go and access our vehicle features. One of the important ones is to point out the chime and turn signal. So we've got a chime volume. As mentioned earlier, we've got that set at 5. We might bring that up to 8. We can go back. Our turn signal volume is a little low. We're going to bring that up to 10. We can have mute during chiming, but we're not going to. Our heads up display, the metadata, we're going to turn that on. So when we're streaming or using Spotify, we can get album art, not necessarily album art, I apologise, but track info displayed up the top there. Simon will catch a glimpse of that with the video shortly. Vehicle settings, we can go in and adjust our climate. All the settings that were here originally from Holden are still in here. Comfort and convenience, so you can personalise it by driver. So auto wipe in reverse, what happens there is every time you put the car in a reverse, the wiper will make one pass to clear that back window for you. So the vehicle locator lights, that is when you hit unlock and you approach the car, it turns on the parkers so that you can find your car at night in a car park. Exit lighting, how long do you want those lights to stay on when you leave and lock the car? 30 seconds, 60 seconds or 2 minutes. The door locks, do you want it to auto lock? So when you get in or out of the car, anti-hijacking they call that in the US, but over here it's auto lock. It's currently set to on. All these things were set in the previous head unit and they've just carried over, so we're not going to change them. Remote locking, you can go and adjust all those factory settings in there. We can go to our Maestro features, so our Maestro module, we can get diagnostics, we can change the audio level. It might be, as we said, in some factory amplified cars, it might be quiet, might be loud, we can go and adjust that. We can do a master reset, we don't need to in this situation. Accessory during crank, not particularly applicable in this car, mostly in a diesel. Our gauges, we can select our gauges, so we can go and decide what gauge is going to be displayed where. A bit of personalisation there, we're going to leave it. OBD communication, we go through and adjust all of those. So the centre gauge, so if you've got a temp gauge connected and the car's going to get hot, you can have that selected to be an alert. Go in and adjust our camera settings. You can turn those dynamic grid lines on, off, or have them flipped or in reverse. We don't have a front or side camera, so they've been blanked out at this point in time. Follow the e-brake. Basically the handbrake wire will engage certain functions on CarPlay when the handbrake is on or off. Here you decide whether it's working off the switch or whether it's on all the time. Legally, it needs to be on with the switch. So there you have it. It's absolutely fantastic, isn't it, guys? Alright, so what we've done today is taken this VF Commodore and all VF Commodores from 2013 onwards and dragged them kicking and screaming into the now with the latest of tech through Maestro and Kenwood. Now, if this is something you want to get done to your VF, reach out to any of the authorised Maestro dealers or shout out to us at Australian Car Audio and we can point you in the right direction. And hopefully from now on, your car is going to be as awesome as ours.